This is Mrs. Zappia with Eureka Math Lesson 6 for Module 1, 7th grade, Identifying Proportional and Non-Proportional Relationships in Graphs. The student outcomes for this lesson. Students examine situations carefully and decide whether two quantities are proportional to each other by graphing on a coordinate plane and observing whether all the points would fall on the line that passes through the origin. And the second outcome, students study examples of relationships that are not proportional as well as those that are. Please pause the video and write down your essential question. How can we observe two quantities on a graph and/or a table and determine if they are proportional? Then turn to page 22 in your book. We are going to do this problem as our example. Sally's aunt put money in a savings account for her on the day Sally was born. The savings account pays interest for keeping her money in the bank. The ratios below represent the number of years to the amount of money in the savings account. After 1 year, the interest accumulated and the total in Sally's account was $312. After 3 years, the total was $340. After 6 years, the total was $380. After 9 years, the total was $430. After 12 years, the total amount in Sally's savings account was $480. Create a table and a graph and explain whether the amount of money accumulated and the time elapsed are proportional to each other. Use your table and graph to support your reasoning. So our problem states, after 1 year, the total amount in our bank account was $312. After 3 years, after 6 years, after 9 years, and after 12 years. The task says to create a table to display this data. So remember that the first line in your data table is the X value, and the second line in the table will be the Y value. So our X value and our Y value will go there. Let's fill in our values for the number of years and then the savings for those years. After 1 year, we've got $312. Pause the video and fill in the rest of the table. It says use your table and graph to support your reasoning. So the next thing we want to do is we want to graph our data onto the graph. So our ordered pairs, we've got 1 and 312. So on our years on the x-axis, we go over to 1 year, and then we go up to 312. So here's 300, and these go by 25, so this would be 325 right there, and we need to move that just a bit down to 312. Right about there. And then 3 years is $340. So this is 2 years, this is 3 years, and then up to $340. And then 6 years and $380. 6 years up to $380, and 9 years, $430, over to 9, up to $430, and 12 years, and the balance is $480. So we've created our table and our graph. And what we want to do next is we want to connect our lines on connect our points on our graph. And that, use your table and graph to support your reasoning. Now we want to know, is that a proportional relationship or not? Now remember, there are two qualities of a proportional graph. One of them is that it is a straight line. The second one is that it passes through 0. So if you can look at this and determine what the answer is, the data in the graph is not proportional. Although it appears to be a line, it is not a line that goes through the origin. The amount of interest collected is not proportional. It is not the same every year. In Lesson 6, you have learned to complete a table, graph the data, and determine if the graph shows a proportional relationship. Tomorrow in class, you will work in groups and follow the same procedure with a set of data, and then we'll do a gallery walk to determine if your classmates' data shows a proportional relationship. So you want to make sure that you can take the data and create a table with the data. Then the next thing is that you will graph the information like we did here. And finally, figure out if the data is proportional or not by looking at the graph. And we will do that tomorrow in class. That's a wrap for Lesson 6.